The Sic Em Podcast is proudly presented by Harley-Davidson of Waco. Harley-Davidson of Waco is your home for Harley-Davidson motorcycles, service, accessories, and apparel. Visit in-store or at hdwaco.com to start your journey today, where you never ride alone. Welcome back to the Sic Em Podcast. I'm your host, John Morris. On today's episode, we get to know Baylor baseball's Cole Posey, a fifth-year senior from Georgetown, Texas. Growing up in a Baylor family, Cole was a huge fan of the Bears and always dreamed of suiting up for them one day. And after a few stops around the country, that dream came true 2 years ago. Now in his final year, the do-it-all first baseman is playing the best ball of his career while also pursuing some big dreams away from the diamond. Cole Posey, welcome to the Sic Em Podcast.
It's good to be here. Good to be here.
Glad you're here. So we've been talking for, how long, 15 or 20 minutes, got the cameras going, got the mics going, so we'll just continue our conversation. How about that?
That sounds good. Let's keep it rolling.
I like it. Fifth-year senior here, part of the baseball program from a Baylor family. There's a lot we can talk about. It wasn't a direct route, though, from Georgetown High School to Baylor, was it?
No, it wasn't. And, you know, kind of our last few games, looking down the barrel of that, I've done a lot of reflecting and just kind of thinking about the amazing path the Lord has had me on. And it's one of those things, I could have never drawn it up that way, but it's been magnificent. I started at Boise State my freshman year, and how I got out there was I had a good family friend from Georgetown, really highly recruited football player, and he was a year older than me. He decided to go to Boise State. And he was there, he enrolled early, so he had been there for about a year and a half, and he figures out that they're bringing a baseball program. And he's like, hey man, you should really come check it out. I heard the coach is awesome, I love it up here. And I was like, hey, you know, and so we kind of reached out, and one thing led to another, and it felt like a really good fit, and love the coaches, love the area, so I was like, let's do it, like I'm all in. And at that time, that was going to be the first year that Boise State had a program in like 40 years.
Wow.
And so I was like, you know, the idea of coming and starting a program, super cool. And so loved my time at Boise. We only got to play 14 games, and then COVID hit. And so we, kind of crazy, we basically right before July 4th figured out that the program was going to be canceled. And so they cut the program, and so that leaves me, you know, with about a month and a half to get out of a lease, get into a new one, find a school, get enrolled into classes, all these things. So it was hectic. And during this time, it's COVID, right? And you know, everything was in a scramble. And so ended up finding the University of New Mexico, and was there for a couple years. Decided that I wanted to fast track my degree with the hopes of getting back to Texas, being closer to home. And I always joke because, you know, it's about 24 hours to Boise, 12 to Albuquerque, and now it's just like an hour from home, you know, getting closer, getting closer the whole way. And so was able to fast track the degree and become a grad transfer with 2 years of eligibility left. And that was right around the time that Coach T and Coach Dillon, the new staff came in. And Coach T had recruited me a little bit in high school.
Okay.
And so I think he knew the kind of the player I was. And my whole thing when I was talking to him was, you know, Coach, I can offer you experience. I love this place just as much as you do, because I knew that he was a Baylor guy also. And so I think that meant a lot to him. And he's like, well, come on, man, you know. It was kind of a shaky situation just with trying to figure out, move pieces around and players and stuff. But he's like, we'd love to have you. And so I feel like I just kind of came in and ran with the opportunity, and it's been the biggest blessing. I love this place.
Wow, that's great. And you grew up around Baylor. Your mom and dad graduated from Baylor. Your dad played football here.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. And so he played, I think it was about a semester, and then figured out he had a little knee injury and decided that, you know, he was just going to do school and hang out with mom and all that kind of stuff. And so, but yeah, he was a Baylor football player for a little bit. So.
Nice. Good background. Jake and Merrick Posey.
That's right.
And you remember growing up, I mean, you were coming to Baylor games back at Floyd Casey Stadium, right?
Oh yeah, that's right. Back at old Floyd Casey. I mean, there were so many amazing games that we went to, and just getting to see my parents always would joke because they're like, this is not the Baylor that we grew up with, and seeing all the amazing developments as far as facilities and how awesome we get treated these days. He's like, man, that's just not how it was back then.
Wow.
And obviously you see now they're building Fudge. We just built Foster, the awesome Welcome Center. And then of course, McLean, just some amazing facilities. And he's like, man, I never would have thought the day would come, And so it's awesome that I'm getting to reap the rewards of those things. And it's been such a special place. I love it.
That's pretty cool. Baylor was ingrained in you and Baylor athletics. Sounds like at an early age.
It was.
Yeah. What games stand out the most?
Man,
up here?
I think it's kind of funny. It wasn't a ton of baseball games, even though I feel like my goal growing up was always to play baseball at Baylor. It wasn't like to play for the Rangers. It wasn't to play, for the Astros. It was like, I want to play baseball at Baylor. And obviously that didn't work out straight out of high school, but it was really football. My dad played football, and I love football, played football, and so we came to a lot of football games. And I think some of the most memorable ones is, when they turned the lights out at Floyd Casey. I think of whenever we knocked off number 1 K-State, and I believe they just became 1 like the week before, and then they came to Waco and we beat them.
Yeah.
I think Colin Klein was the quarterback.
That's
maybe.
right.
Yeah.
Very good.
And so a lot of super fun games. And at the time, I didn't really realize it because that was the Baylor I grew up with. But my parents were always like, it meant so much to them just knowing what Baylor had been through to where they are now, and really becoming a powerhouse in college football. And so it was just an awesome way to grow up, and that's the Baylor I always know in my head.
That's cool. It's great to have that background. So from high school, Georgetown High School, 109 stolen bases in high school?
Yes, sir.
I mean, I'm trying to do the math there. You were running all the time, weren't you?
Yeah, getting on base and running. So a lot of that has to go to the credit of Coach Foster. He implemented, it was very much a run and gun offense. As soon as we were getting on, we were stealing second, we were stealing third. We did a lot of double steals. But we kind of lived and died by it, and that was our identity. We were going to play hard, run the bases hard. And so a lot of it has to be, being in that system with that just running mentality. But also we had some pretty fast guys. And I promise you in the fall, we were in running shape. We were ready for the season. He had us running. So
were you always, what position did you play mostly in high school?
Shortstop.
Shortstop,
yes, sir. Yeah. Shortstop by trade, all the way growing up. Even played shortstop at Boise my freshman year, and then a little bit at UNM, but really that's when I started to develop my utility, which has been known now at Baylor. I think I've played every single position besides pitcher and catcher, and so.
That's true. Yeah, you're very versatile. That's
yes, sir.
That's good. That's a plus. But 5A All-State at Georgetown High School. Did you have opportunities to go to other schools?
I did, and so the way it kind of started, I guess I was getting recruited, but maybe a little bit later. I wouldn't say I was like a top dog. Gotcha. Getting those big interests right away. But my junior year, that summer was a good summer for me, and I started getting recruited pretty well. And that's whenever Boise came knocking, and I really kind of fell in love with the place, and I liked the idea of starting up a new program. And what Coach Van Tol told me that really stuck with me is I can go around for the next 6 months and try and recruit another shortstop, but I like you and I want you to be a part of the program. And that really resonated with me. And I was like, well, I think I like you and I like this program and I like Boise. And so, let's make it happen. And that's kind of how it all came to be. And it was pretty cool going into my senior year, knowing where I was going to go, and sometimes that can be some of the most stressful times, trying to figure out what the next step is. I have to play good so I can get recruited. And so I think that kind of took a little bit of weight off. That junior summer was my best summer, and also that senior year had been my best year to date. And so I think it all worked out well.
Nice. Boise's a long way from Georgetown, Texas.
It is.
Then you go up there, and then COVID hits. Man, what was that like, being so far away from home and all of a sudden your season is cut short? Yeah,
it was crazy. Looking back on it, I definitely remember feeling a little bit homesick at times. Yeah. And so whenever it hit, obviously we were extremely bummed, but I was like, it'll be good to go back and see my parents for a little bit, because at that time it's like, maybe this lasts for a couple weeks.
True.
And funny enough, we'd played Seattle. So that was like a hot spot at the time, and we'd also played Niagara, which had also been kind of a hot spot at the time. So we had just played these two teams, and whenever COVID was first started popping up, those were kind of like the places that were like the hot spots, and we're like, oh gosh, like we definitely got it, I mean, if anyone has it, we do.
Right.
And so that all ended up happening, and so I got to come home for a little bit, which ended up being like the spring break that never ended,
Right.
And so, but shortly, not long after that was when they decided to cut the program, and that kind of blindsided us, and so that kind of put us into a little bit of a scurry trying to figure out what the next step was going to be.
You guys, that are seniors, guys and girls that are seniors this year, you're kind of the COVID kids. You came in with that, you had to overcome that, and then were able to move past it. That's something that, that's going to be a time in history that you were right in the middle of.
No, it's true. You think of a lot of unprecedented things in college athletics. You think of NIL, you think of conference realignment, and then you also think of COVID. Yeah. I've been right there for all of them, you know what I'm saying?
That's right.
And so it has not been normal by any means, but I guess it is kind of normal to me because it's all I know. Mm-hmm. But it's definitely been a changing landscape. It's been wild, and I'm thankful that, obviously COVID was a rough deal, but I'm thankful that I got another year, and so that I was able to play 2 at Baylor. And it's been the biggest blessing for me. So
that's great. So roundabout way, but you finally made it to
That's
Baylor.
Right.
That was your goal all along.
That's right.
And here you are playing baseball at Baylor. And for Coach Thompson, what was the recruiting pitch like? Were you selling him, or was he selling you?
Yeah, well, that was kind of the funny thing. I told him, I was like, hey, you don't have to sell me on anything. Yeah. I know what I'm getting into. I want to be here, and I want to help you build something. I want to look back after my couple years and be proud of what we were able to do. And so, I think that was something that, he's a JUCO guy. He's a little bit old school, and he's like, man, if you're about it, like I'm all about it. Yeah. So let's make it happen. And so that kind of made it easy, right? I didn't have to sell him much on me because, he'd seen me play a little bit, and he also knew, like, if you love this place, you're going to come and fight that much harder for it. And so I think it was kind of a mutual, like, let's get it rolling kind of deal.
Nice. The number 6, sometimes there's a significance to the number you choose. Anything there?
No significance for me. I was always 5 in high school, and I don't even know why I chose 5. I think it was because I liked Albert Pujols. And now I'm playing first base, so it's like, I guess it all makes sense, right? At the time I was playing shortstop wearing 5, Albert Pujols, like that doesn't go together.
That's funny.
But yeah, I've been 5 really my entire life, and then I've kind of bounced around. I've been 6 here, and then I was 7 at UNM.
Okay.
And so 5, 6, 7, and but really no significance with the number 6.
We mentioned your versatility. You have played every position here except pitcher and catcher. That's right. And you've done that in an inter squad, right?
Yep, I have. I've done a little bit of catching, and then at UNM one time they had me throw a bullpen. So
really?
I guess I technically have played them all, just not in a game.
Yeah,
so.
That's wild.
The Sic Em Podcast is proudly presented by Harley-Davidson of Waco. Harley-Davidson of Waco is your home for Harley-Davidson motorcycles, service, accessories, and apparel. Visit in-store or at hdwaco.com to start your journey today, where you never ride alone.
The trip to first base, or the path that led you to where you are now at first base, or where you ended this season, that was really interesting, wasn't it?
It was, and it was kind of funny. I don't think it was really on anyone's radar. We always joke, like, did you have that one on your bingo card? And I don't think anyone did.
Right.
And so the way the year kind of started, I dealt with an injury. I tore my labrum, and so that was something that happened in the fall, and I kind of decided to push through it and try and play. Just to really, my whole mindset was, I want to bring like that culture of toughness, and I want to play and show the guys that we can push through this no matter what comes in the season. We play through, and we're tough. Mm-hmm. And so if you ever came out there in the fall, you probably saw it looked like I was throwing with my left hand. You know, it was like 30%. It was really rough. And so now I have a new appreciation for pitchers and whoever else that has an arm injury. It's like, yeah, it can be rough. But we were able to get in with a good doctor, got an injection, a PRP shot, and that took a little while for it to get better. But really, I'd say right about the start of the season, my arm wasn't where it needed to be. I'd say it was probably like 80% healthy, but I was really only giving it about 50 to 60%. And I had a coach pull me aside and was like, I've been through a similar injury. I want to encourage you to let it loose. I don't want you to do anything that will hurt yourself, but whenever you look back at the end of this year, I know the kind of guy you are, and I know you don't want to have left anything on the table. And so I really took that to heart, and I really started pushing through it. And like there would be pain in the beginning, but it would eventually go away, and it wasn't ever anything that was lingering. I'd wake up and it'd feel fine. It just kind of hurt to get it going a little bit. And so really about, I'd say halfway through the season, it's probably where the status of my arm is now. I can probably get about 90% on it. It feels good, doesn't really bother me. Maybe not quite the zip that I had before, but good enough, right? Can still make all the plays, and it doesn't bother me. And so right around that time, Coach T, I'd started hitting pretty well in practice, and I hadn't really played that much up to that point. And, I'll tell you this, I went into Coach T's office, and, I don't think he'd mind me sharing this. I really went in there hat in hand and told him, just kind of pleaded with him, like, don't give up on me, because I know that I have a lot more left, and I'm leaving everything out there. Like, and if my shoulder gives out, it's going to be because I'm going 100% on the field, and like, you're not going to have to worry about, is it healthy, is it good to go? I'm giving you all I got. And so I went and had that conversation with him, and I told him, just pleaded with him, like, hey, don't give up on me, because I haven't given up on myself, and I know I have more to give. And so probably a few weeks went by, and I started hitting really well, and my arm was coming along really well and hitting well in practice. And Coach T was like, hey, you ever played first base? And he doesn't know this, but I'll tell you.
Yeah.
I lied, and I told him I had.
Of course you did. Of course you did.
I told him I had. And so he's like, okay, well, prove it, And so we kind of did a few ground balls at first. And I played infield my entire life, so it's kind of just fielding a ground ball. And I guess I impressed him. And so he's like, we played UIW on a Friday. And he rolled me out there at first, and I ended up hitting a grand slam.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of really off to the races after that. And I feel like I really got to credit like Mason Greer and Will Pendergrass. They've really brought me along and have helped me so much with first, because those are guys that have played a long time. And even though I said I played, I never had. And so they helped me a ton. And it's been kind of cool. It's been a little bit easier on my arm. Being a shortstop and now playing first, I'm giving all I can on those picks, because I remember being on the other side, make a good play and maybe not the best throw. Like, I want that dude to pick me up over there, and save me from that error or whatever and make the out. And so I take pride in it, and I know I'm not the biggest target, but if you keep it low, like I'm gonna get in there and at least knock it down, try and make the pick. So
pretty cool how Will and Mason helped you.
Yep.
They were. They would have been there, but they had injuries they were working through themselves. But as good teammates, they wanted you to be the best you could playing first base.
No doubt. And that's something that I think about often. They really did it out of the good of their heart, because we're good friends and because we have that relationship. And it's true, right? Those were guys that were playing that position. But it never once crossed their mind to not help me, right? Yeah. It's just something that, I would do for them and they'd do for me. And I can vividly remember I was really working on like the forehand spin on the double play, and I was struggling, and they went out there and set up the machine, and both of them, Will's over there in his sling, and Mason's like over there trying to help me work on the footwork, and we probably worked on it for 45 minutes after practice. And I really think right there my fielding went up a notch at first, just because they were working on the footwork with me. What's the mindset that you want to have on a certain ball? And so I thought that was really special, and that's not something that you get everywhere. And so I just kind of credit that to the culture that's being built, but also the guys that are here, the kind of heart that they have, and really just trying to do what's best for the team.
Yeah, says a lot about all of you guys, really. So Incarnate Word Series, that's about April 5th.
Yep.
You step in there, Grand Slam, first game. All of a sudden, a star is born.
Yeah.
A star first baseman is born. And, man, you went on a tear in the month of April, didn't you?
I did. And it's so funny because we joke, I guess I had played 50 games last year, something like that. And I think I had 3 homers. And then, I move over to first and play, 50 at-bats and hit 5 homers. And they're like, oh, my gosh, what's going on? Yeah. It's like, well, I guess it's that first base power, It. And so we'll kind of joke, and some of the guys will start calling me, like, Posey McGuire, like Mark McGuire. And, it's been cool because it's my last year, and with not playing the first half of the season, my whole mindset has just been I want to make the most of it, And I don't want to go up there stressing. I don't want to go up there worried about what might happen because, the Lord has blessed me with being able to get back from this injury, which a lot of folks, it could sideline them. It's surgery for most people is what it is. Yeah. And, I just want to take it all in, enjoy it because, I know there's not much left, right? And so I'm kind of looking down the barrel of it being over, and so just want to enjoy it and play free and have fun, right?
It shows. I mean, it shows in the way you play and the joy that you have in playing the game. April 30th, pretty good night for you.
Yes, sir.
Against UTA.
That was a cool one. And that was a funny one, and that's something that I've thought about a good bit. Started off with a single, then homered, and then third at bat I get up there and smoke one to the gap, and it was to the poolside gap, and I'm a righty. And normally if you're going to get a triple, you're thinking the oppo gap.
That's right.
And so I get to second, and I remember seeing him like maybe just picking up the ball, and at this point I'm not thinking about a cycle. I'm thinking about really like I'm hitting the ball good, and I think I can get a triple. I haven't had a triple all year, so I round it, get into third, and get the triple.
Yeah.
So I now have a triple, a single, and a homer through 3 at-bats. And the way this game was going, it wasn't a high-scoring game, and so I was only going to get 4 at-bats this game. Sometimes and I was hitting 3-hole, so I was at the top of the lineup, and sometimes you can easily get 6 at-bats a game. But this was a game I was only going to get 4. And so I knew that going into the last at bat, and I think all the guys on the team kind of knew it too. It's kind of like a no-hitter.
Did they talk to you about it?
No, no one talked about it.
Don't
even talk about it. And very similar to like a no-hitter.
Right.
Everybody kind of knows what's going on, but nobody says anything. And I know, like, I'm just kind of after that triple, I walk into the dugout, and people are kind of like looking at me like, you got a double for the cycle. And so I end up going up to I'll backtrack a little bit. I'm in the field, and all I can kind of think about I know I need a double for the cycle, but all I can think about is going back to a verse that we did Bible study over in the fall, and it's in the book of James, James chapter 4. And what James is talking about is, people have these plans in life to go to this city or that city and make a profit and do business. But he says instead, your plan should be, if the Lord wills it, I will go and do this or that. And so that's all I could think about whenever I'm sitting there in the field, and I just had an overwhelming sense of joy and gratitude for everything that I've been through and to where I am now, and to think about that, man, I have the chance to hit for the cycle, but, many are the plans in a man's heart, but it's the Lord's will that prevails. And so I was just I had a peace with that, ended up hitting a single, got my first 4-hit game ever, and it kind of trickled through the infield. And so I run through first, and I see it gets through, and so I kind of put on the brakes and go to second, and I slip. But Coach Dill's like, go, 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 because we all kind of know what's going on, right?
Right.
And so I ended up sliding to second, and I'm out. Max tells me after the game it wouldn't have been a double anyways. I should have just stayed at first. And so, but it was my first 4-hit game ever, and a double shy of the cycle. But still, I think back, and I really feel like it's a profound lesson, in the midst of those things, whether it's going good or bad, it's the Lord's will that prevails. And So I found a lot of peace in that.
Love it. That's great. And if I remember right, you made a really good defensive play that night, too.
I did.
Back of the bag.
Yep.
So there's the first baseman coming through.
It is, and that was not long after we had been working on the footwork and all that kind of stuff. So it was pretty cool to see that come out in game.
Nice. You're in the business school?
Yes, sir.
All right. What area of the business school?
So undergrad, just business management, and then so I started off in the MBA program at Baylor doing grad school and moved into the sports management, which is very much like a business undertone with a little bit of sports on top of it. And so that's kind of where I've been the last couple years, and I've really enjoyed it. Got a couple baseball guys in there with me also, and it's been great. I've loved it. Sports management.
That's great. And you're getting some very practical experience during your time here. Tell everybody about the Hondo Hat Company.
Yeah, so right about the time where I switched from MBA over to sports management, I had a little bit more time on my hands. I was taking 4 classes at the MBA, and now I'm just taking 3. And so I kind of been like scrolling through social media, not as much of a heavy course load, and I'm seeing these hats, these shirts, and I'm like, well, sometimes people will compliment me on like the hats that I wear, so maybe if I can make a cool hat, people will want to wear those also. Yeah. And so it really started in February, pretty much all throughout the season, and then at the very end of May, after our season ended, the hats came in and I started selling. And the company has grown a good bit since then, and obviously changed and transformed in different ways. But it's been a blast. It's been something that I've been able to work the creative side of my mind, which is, if you know me, it's not really me. I'm not musically inclined, not very artistic, but I guess I kind of have an eye for what I think looks good, and if I think it looks good, maybe other people will like it too, and it's really just been fun. So kind of coming up on a year in business here pretty soon, and Baylor's been awesome. They've allowed an entrepreneurship internship this summer, and so I'll be able to work on Hondo in Waco, and able to get paid for it a little bit too. So it's going to be super cool.
At the Brick. You're going
That's
to be
right.
at the Brick.
That's right.
HondoHatco.com is the website. So we want everybody to look at that, and some good products. I mean, really impressive. Did you design all those?
Yes, sir. For the most part, I've outsourced a couple designs to a designer, but as far as advertising, marketing, inventory, website, design, for the most part, it's been me. It's kind of been a one-man shop, and but I've liked it. I've got to learn so much. I mean, so much in a year, and I can only imagine, at the couple years down the road, what I'll be able to learn. And so, it's been super cool. And I'll do a little plug. Perhaps there might be a little Baylor Hondo collab coming this summer.
Oh,
maybe.
Nice.
We'll see.
Sneak peek. That's great. Deo Valente.
That's right.
Is part of your designs also.
It is, and the Texas way I like to say it is Dio Valente.
Oh, sorry.
And what it means is God willing, if nothing prevents it. And our chaplain, Bob Johns, that's something that he's kind of coined and used, and he'll even kind of use it in emails as a sign-off, DV, Dio Valente. And so that was something that I kind of heard him talk about one time, and I was like, I think that's super cool. I think I'm going to steal that. Obviously having a spiritual background and the faith being a big part of my life, I wanted to find a way to put that into the company. And so I thought Dio Valente was super cool. No one really knows what it means, so to look it up and figure out, God willing, if nothing prevents it. And that's really kind of been the whole mindset, with this season, but also with the company is like, I'm going to give it my best. I'm going to learn as I go, and God willing, if nothing prevents it,
Wow, that's terrific. It's great testimony right there.
Yes, sir.
All right, as your time is starting to wind down here at Baylor, you're not going to leave town. You're going to be here, and you're going to enter Baylor Law School coming up next spring. Congratulations on that.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I appreciate it. That's kind of been something that's been on my mind. My dad's a lawyer. My uncle is a Baylor lawyer. So, that's kind of always been on the mind. And really coming to Baylor, the whole plan was do a couple years of grad school and get ready for law school. And so that was part of the decision with switching over to the sports management, to maybe give me the angle for sports agent, or maybe, you know, work in a front office or something like that, just to kind of get well-versed in the sports arena. But I'm super excited about it. I think it's going to be a great opportunity. And like I said, it's kind of something that had always kind of been on like the checklist, you know, so to speak. And so kind of like that next step.
Ooh, you're making it happen.
Yeah.
All right, final question we like to ask student athletes on the Sic Em Podcast. When your time at Baylor is done, how would you like for people to remember Cole Posey?
Yeah, that's a tough question. But I think what it would have to be for me, because I think back to a lot of Baylor greats, whether it's on the basketball court, whether it's, you know, on the football field, and even some of the baseball guys. And maybe I won't be remembered for statistic performance or anything like that, but what I'd like to be remembered is like the ultimate team guy, the guy who cared about others, the guy who loved Baylor and came here because he wanted to see it change for the better. And, you know, I think that's the ultimate legacy for me. Leaving Baylor, hopefully some of these younger guys, even, you know, some of my peers, the older guys, really have that lasting friendship with me, and just saw the passion that I had for Baylor, the passion for the game, and then the passion for the Lord also. And so if that can be my impact, my legacy, I know I will have done something right. And so I hope and pray that that's what it is, because at the end of the day, like, the numbers are cool, the stats are cool, but those all end up fading, right? And what I think about is, you know, whenever we'll have Jason Jennings or John Topolsky or any of these Baylor legends come back, you know, obviously these guys are all over the stadium. They have crazy numbers. But what always sticks with me is whenever they talk about, you know, certain guys on the team who maybe didn't have a huge impact but had an impact on the guys. They were kind of like a glue guy. They were the guy that kept the locker room together. They were a guy that, you know, they still keep up with to this day. And that's the amazing thing about sports, right? Yeah. So hopefully that can be my legacy, and I hope and pray that it is.
You're doing it. Congratulations on a great career here.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Dio Valente moving forward.
That's right. God willing.
Thanks again for joining us on the Sic Em Podcast, a sport and story production. If you enjoyed this conversation with Cole Posey, head over to BaylorPlus.com or the official Baylor Athletics YouTube channel, where you can watch the premium video version of this podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast, leave a review, and tell your friends about us. I'm your host, John Morris, and I hope you'll join us next week on another edition of the Sic Em Podcast.